Thank you everyone for your presence. I imagine everybody here is willing to learn more about microbiome, which is a very interesting topic. So, my name is Virginia Franco, and I am a medical doctor, as David kindly introduced myself, but I'm also the Chief Executive Officer of the company Ioni Solutions in Switzerland. And today I will speak more about the role of microbiome in women's health. I imagine, as everybody here came to speak about microbiome, probably this panel, everybody here knows what is the vaginal microbiome, but does anybody here have no clue what is vaginal microbiome? Okay. The vaginal microbiome is a dynamic ecosystem subject to changes depending on the habits of women, sexual habits, hygiene, food, where do they live, humidity, a lot of things. And the interaction between those microelements, fungal, bacteria, and virus, consists of the microbiome, which is different from microbiota, that involves more the bacteria, the live bacteria. And the microbiome itself is not only the bacteria, are the fungus and virus as well. Why is it important? Why the vaginal microbiome is important? The vaginal microbiome is normally rich in lactobacillus. We believe that the natural, protective, and healthy colonization is rich in lactobacillus, which are responsible for producing lactic acid and therefore turning the microenvironment more acid and probably less colonized by anaerobic bacteria that causes, most part of the time, recurrent vaginal infections such as bacterial vaginosis. We performed a study, a Swiss-Brazilian study group on microbiome, on healthy, which I also participated, on healthy women and with vaginal conditions such as vaginal candidiasis caused by fungus. The target population of this study were women coming for their gynecological attendances, so women with symptoms, without healthy women, or women with symptoms of infections. And we collected some data from those women, reporting a questionnaire with 32 questions. And we collected the vaginal samples from those ladies in 4 different portions of the vagina wall, and not only the vagina itself, but the cervical and endocervical portion of the reproductive tract. And we also did a pH measurement in A, B, and C portions of the vagina. This study was done in collaboration with the University of São Paulo in Brazil. So we collected those samples from 92 women in Brazil, in those 5 different portions for each woman. The microbiome, the number of women is there. As I mentioned, this study was well distributed across ages. And the conditions that we targeted the most were candidiasis, diabetes, and menopause, knowing that those conditions are likely to have different profiles of vaginal microbiome and can be influenced, the vaginal microbiome can be also influenced by those conditions. The technology we used is the Ioni vaginal microbiome test, which we have here with us today. I can show later. This test is very important for us because this is a targeted analysis test. So we basically developed the assay, the configuration of the assay with the elements that we chose among virus and bacteria such as fungus and such as lactobacillus and Gardnerella. And it's important for us because it's a quantitative test. So we profile exactly the most important commensal microorganisms in the vaginal flora. And we provide data to select the most relevant probiotic that could be used for that lady. We identify links between microbiome composition, recurrent vaginal infections, and potentially to improve also the preparation for the fertility treatments. Here we got one of very interesting results that we got is that the position matters. It means that in the same women, imagine that the microbiome colonization in the first initial 2/3 of the vagina are quite similar. Here, in this case, with the prevalence of Lactobacillus gasseri, I'm talking about the same patient here. Imagine it's the same lady. And the cervical and endocervical result of this woman is also has a similar colonization, which is different from the initial 2/3 of the vagina, which in this case is Lactobacillus crispatus in the same patient, which is good for the test. For example, with this self-testing kit, it doesn't matter which wall of the vagina. If she's collecting herself, and it's not endocervical collection, it's vaginal collection, doesn't matter much, apparently, which wall she will reach, even if she cannot see, because the results of the two initial portions of the vagina are similar. Also, a key finding that is very important for us is the transition among the menopause, the instability of the vaginal microbiome in the phases of perimenopause, climaterium itself after the menopause. This instability is something that we encourage to be monitored with vaginal microbiome tests, and is probably very linked to the lack of estrogen after the menopause. And we observed that after menopause in ladies that are not under estrogen use, we do not see much prevalence of lactobacillus, which can be an open door for the prevalence of the vaginal infections and symptoms. Another key finding, very important for us in this clinical study, is the fact that the lack of, in this specific population, it's a Brazilian population, we observed lack of Lactobacillus acidophilus in the presence of recurrent candidiasis in the endocervical portion. So we could, for example, start elaborating that the Lactobacillus acidophilus in the endocervical portion can be a factor, a protective factor against recurrent candidiasis. This is one of our key findings and one of the things that we endorse in this study. Vaginal microbiome against vaginal infections. This study is really to investigate the changes in the vaginal microbiome among women with vaginal candidiasis using this targeted analysis test that I described, the Ioni targeted analysis test, to quantify different bacteria and fungus in the vaginal microbiome and its link with symptoms and potential prevalence of genital candidiasis, especially recurrent candidiasis. As I mentioned, the advantage of this test is the fact that we could develop and really elaborate on what are the microelements that we would like to see in this test, that we would like to use, that we think are important, relevant in the vaginal microbiome. So this is our current assay containing Lactobacillus crispatus, gasseri, ginseng, Iners, Acidophilus helveticus, also Gardnerella vaginalis as one of the most important bacteria causing bacterial vaginosis, and the Candida glabrata and albicans. Here, with this test, as I said, we can really quantify those elements and benefit from the measurement tool of it. The learnings of this study is results of the study revealed the significant microbiome transition during the perimenopause and postmenopausal phase, characterized by a period of high microbial instability. And this test was used as an instrumental in capturing these dynamic shifts with precision, allowing for informed interventions. The personalized assay would facilitate the selection in the future of these probiotics tailored for each woman, personalized probiotic recommendation. We shed a light in an intricate interplay between vaginal health and the microbiome composition. Why should a woman check her microbiome? Because you understand the prevalence of lactobacillus she has, you understand the which category of community state types she belongs, which is even another different topic that we can discuss in the next session, the community state types. Understand how she can benefit from a natural solution, such as probiotics, and improve her chances of getting a good probiotic recommendation. This would be absolutely important, in my opinion, to avoid overuse of antibiotics, antifungal, reduce collateral effects, resistances, and so on. I would like to say thank you very much. I would like to also provide my email for future interactions and collaborations, and also to answer to your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Virginia.
Thank you.
So we have 1 minute for questions.
3 already.
Thank you for the talk. Could you comment on the difference between luteal and follicular phase and how the difference in the microbiome population between these phases would influence the recommendation for probiotic solution?
The difference between, sorry, come again.
Luteal and follicular phase, so within the menstrual cycle.
During the menstrual cycle, yeah. Okay. During the menstrual cycle, especially during the period itself, when women are bleeding, because of the presence of the blood, normally the pH will grow. It will become more basic and less acid. So women are more likely, especially women under recurrent bacterial vaginosis, are more likely to, right after the period, even in the presence of a small amount of blood, even, to have symptoms such as fishing odor and itching because of the presence of the blood itself, turning the ecosystem, let's say this way, more basic and less acid. Main differences during the period are those ones. Yes?
Sorry.
I think we have two.
We have first the person yeah.
Can you, okay. Do you know if there is a correlation between the flora that you have on the upper part of the uterus and the cervical and the lower part of the vagina? Although they are different, but are they correlated still in a way? And if taking probiotic might impact one and have a negative impact on the other one?
So the correlation we saw, yes, there is a difference. We saw difference in the colonization of endocervical, cervical, different from the first two portions of the vagina. But what we saw is that when the first two initial portions of the vagina are colonized for good lactobacillus, good bacteria, the endocervical and cervical as well. So that's a correlation. But the probiotics, oral probiotics, we saw some studies, clinical studies with some group of strains of lactobacillus showing that this probiotic was performed with women under recurrent infections. They showed the results, the migration of those bacteria. They saw the presence of those bacteria in the vagina, even if by probiotics taken orally. But hopefully, what I believe today, if we see the studies that we have with probiotics, and including the studies with the probiotics we use, it's more for vaginal microbiome colonization, not necessarily endocervical. Endocervical, I believe it will come even more studies with endocervical microbiome.
Last question. Sorry, up there, yeah. Can you...
Can you hear me? Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you once again for your lovely talk. I was wondering if in your experience, in your work, you've encountered any correlation between the presence of Lactobacillus iners and a lower rate of fertilization treatment success?
The Lactobacillus iners, it's a bit a gray area in some populations because different from Crispatus and Gasseri that are more linked to the healthy microbiome, the iners in some populations, they are present in some women and they never performed symptoms, but some populations we see the presence of iners, the presence of anaerobic bacteria together and having women with more symptoms in the presence of Lactobacillus iners. So Lactobacillus iners is a bit gray area still to speak about it only as protective lactobacillus. But that's not what we see.
Did you notice any correlation between its presence and the success of fertilization?
Not that I saw with the iners, but honestly, I believe it's still, with the role of Lactobacillus iners, depending on the population, depending on the group of women, it's very different as protective or not playing any role at all, not even disrupted, but not playing any role at all. Because some group of women, in Africa, for example, we saw studies of women that were historically colonized by Lactobacillus iners. And in the presence of Gardnerella, they still have a lot of recurrent infections. So is Lactobacillus iners as protective as the others? I would not affirm that at this point.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
But we can reconnect.
You have the booth, right?
Yeah,
so they can find. You can find all the speaker, Resistel and Yoni Solution will have the booth. So if you have more questions, you can go there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.